So those that have been following the channel know that we've been taking a deeper look into debt here in Thailand. Debt is obviously a problem worldwide, but Thailand does have a particular issue in that it has the highest household debt in Southeast Asia. Coupled with limited increases in the incomes here for people, it means that some people often take out credit and are unable to repay that credit. Many people will take out credit in order to purchase a nice vehicle, a car or a motorbike, but then are sometimes unable to make the repayments on that car and motorbike, and it's repossessed. Today I've come to the city of Korat, also known as the gateway to Isan, to take a closer look at what happens to those vehicles. Many of them end up in auctions, just like the one I'm going to be taking you to today, and those vehicles are then sold on to new owners. They are repossessed from the previous owners and sold on. Much of the credit is given by banks, which then use these auctions to get the capital back. And so let's go and take a look at the cars that are on offer and how the actual process works. So here we are at the auction site, and just before we go through the process here and take a look at the cars, I wanted to highlight some important numbers just to show you the scale of the problem. As we previously discussed, Thailand has one of the highest household debt levels in Asia, totaling 16.3 trillion baht in total household debt. Economists would say that's not just high, but it's structurally risky. Most of this debt that is accumulated is not going on investment or luxury items. 77% of Thailand's household debt is actually from consumption, so it's paying daily living expenses. This comes from personal loans and credit cards, a lot of it, but it really is accumulation of debt to survive, not to buy flashy vehicles. As we're going to see here today, some of the vehicles are actually not high-end flashy vehicles. They are normal trucks that we used for people's jobs. And one interesting statistic that I found is that pickup trucks represent 43% of finance vehicles, but actually over 50% of all bad card loans. So the pickup trucks are not just common, but they are disproportionately failing. What this suggests as well is people are buying a utility vehicle, something they require to use, whether it's in family life or more so in work. And in some cases that vehicle ends up here and that person ends up losing an asset that might be integral to how they make money. Now, those that know Thailand know that debt comes in many forms. There is official debt from the bank. There is also loan shark behavior here. There is debt within families. There is debt against land, which I've covered in previous vlogs. But it's auto or car debt that represents nearly 20% of total household debt in Thailand. So it's a major chunk of the household debt problem, and most of that is pickup trucks. Right now the pressure is also showing because there is 836,000 cars that have payments overdue, and there are 537,000 more at risk. That represents over 1.3 million cars in Thailand that are currently in trouble. Now, of course, COVID was a massive amplifier of this bad situation. Now household debt is at the highest it's ever been, and we're coming into a state of affairs where costs of living might even go up due to issues in the Middle East. Of course, oil prices affect transport costs, they affect food prices, they affect everything in the economy. And if there was a global financial crisis, that may put Thais in an even more difficult position, which would mean places like this fill up even faster. Obviously, when costs of living rise in Thai households and things get difficult, the vehicle is often the first thing to go, simply because it's easy to confiscate, it's a high value asset, and it's a fixed monthly payment. And so it's the vehicle that often faces the chop first of all. This obviously creates a very negative cycle. First of all, you've got easy credit, so you buy the vehicle. Then there's income pressure, so you miss the payments. Then there's repossession into the auction yard, and then the market is flooded with cars, and then it repeats again and again and again, which is, I guess, is good business for the auction people here. There are Thais that are showing up here that will often buy 20 cars at one time, and then they'll go and sell them around Thailand. We're about to see what kind of prices you can get for these cars. Does it work out cheaper or not? I guess we're going to find out. I've been told that these lots on today's particular auction is not the product of crashes, or these are more repossessions from the bank. One telltale sign, I believe, is that if it has TTB on the front of it like this, it means that it comes from a bank, and it's probably a relatively new vehicle with very little issues. This is one where payments have not been made on it. Obviously it's a Ford Ranger, looks like a pretty new car in good condition. There are actually 50 vehicles in the auction today, so I can't keep an eye on all of them, but I know that some subscribers are going to be interested in the outcome of some of these vehicles, and we'll take a look what they actually sell for in the auction. Now I should mention I'm 99% sure that I won't be buying a car today. I better not anyway, unless there's a complete belter that comes out. But I did have to pay the deposit on my arrival. As I came in, I gave my passport, I registered and transferred 20,000 baht deposit. In return, I got my number, which obviously is my card to bid for whatever car I'm interested in. One very unexpected symptom of me coming here today is the emotional feeling behind the situation here. I just thought I'm going to come look at some cars, that have been repossessed that are selling at auction. But then when you start to see that there are a number of vehicles here that are just farming vehicles, and then inside some people have left their stuff, like a pillow or some kind of kid's toy, and you think, for a vehicle that is maybe sometimes even only worth 100,000 baht perhaps, they've obviously come on hard times and they've had to give up that vehicle. And then you think, well, how do the kids get to school, or how do they manage doing the job? That doesn't go for the fancy vehicles, of course. Your souped up vehicles that have obviously there's been big money spent on, like making them look all flashy and whatnot, I have a little bit less sympathy for. But for your farming vehicles that people needed for work, and your vehicles that obviously were to take the kids to school and things like that it's sad to see, because that represents a family that doesn't have that vehicle anymore and maybe be struggling, you know what I mean? There are some irresponsible decisions here associated with debt, but there are also some inevitable consequences here of costs of living going up and people falling on hard times. I did notice they do help a little bit by putting a circle around any issues, and there is some writing here on the windscreen which I think tells you any problem that may be with the car. So you do get some information. So just before we continue with today's video, I would like to mention our partners on the vlog. It's Surfshark VPN. I know many of my subscribers have already downloaded and use Surfshark VPN, especially those that are based in the UK and dealing with certain legislature, which is somewhat limiting on free speech and restricting people's access to content. Surfshark VPN is going to help protect your privacy online, but more than this, it has a number of useful features, such as an email scanner, which will actively scan your email for any malware or phishing attacks that might be hidden within your emails. Another useful feature is parental control, so you can control what content your children may be exposed to on their iPads or computers. Additionally, if you're going to be searching for flights anytime soon, or hotels or car rentals, you can use Surfshark VPN to make sure you're not being subject to price discrimination. Simply change your location in the top right hand corner and check that you're getting the best price available on the internet and are not being discriminated against based on where you're searching from. Surfshark are giving me an offer to give to you. It's going to get you 4 months extra. Simply use code word NAKEDGURU at checkout. Download the app or go to www.surfshark.com/nakedguru, and that's a money back guarantee. So if it doesn't work out for you for whatever reason, you get your money back. So that's 588,000 for the Ranger. So I've just come out of the auction because it's a little bit noisy in there to discuss some of the dynamics of what's going on. When the car first arrives, you get a price on the screen, and if it doesn't meet that price, then the car is taken off, or if nobody bids and makes an initial bid, it's taken away. Then as you can see on the screen, you also have people bidding from online. It says on site, so that is the people on the website that are bidding, and that makes the dynamics a little bit different, because I imagine back in the day when you couldn't do the live stream, you couldn't bid online, people could come to these auctions and get some real bargains because you're only competing against the people that come. So maybe there's 20 people in there now. Of course, back in the day, there may be a lot more. But because the pool of capital was quite small, I imagine that you could get some really good deals. Now you have everybody watching online too, and a lot of the bids are coming in from online, and so that might make getting a real bargain a bit more difficult. The other consideration is that those online, they don't actually get to inspect the car physically, so perhaps they're taking a little bit of a risk, but there's a lot of information on there, and any damage is shown on the screen, both in person and online. So if there's any particular issues with the car, that is displayed on the screen there. I actually thought there was going to be some real bargains, like, you know, the real crap cars I thought you were going to get for like 10,000 baht or 20,000 baht. It doesn't seem anything like that. It seems like a lot of the prices are very close to the online sale prices. So I'm not sure if it's easy to get a bargain here or not. They get the cars through quite fast. You can hear as she makes the sale, the next car is coming on up. It's hard to know how many of these people are resellers and how many people are just buying for their own use. I imagine the majority are resellers. They can probably get a little bit of margin from buying at the auction and selling at their outlet. So finishing up at today's auction, I did not bid on anything, but it was definitely an interesting insight. Having lived in Thailand 16 years and having bought a number of second-hand cars, it's prudent to only buy a second-hand car if you really know what you're doing and what you're looking at, or you have a very qualified mechanic looking at it first. For me personally, buying a new car I think is the way to go in Thailand. You may end up paying a little bit extra and losing a little bit of money, but a car is not really an investment. Of course, it's going to depreciate, but I do see it as something that improves your lifestyle and your quality of life. Again, it's sad to see why a lot of the cars end up here, and I do believe that with the current economic climate, it may get worse. I think things may get worse before they get better in this particular area. I think the only resolution to this is to restrict credit so people don't get themselves in these kind of situations to begin with. And that doesn't mean stop credit altogether, but only give out credit to people that can actually afford it. Clearly, there is credit being given to people that cannot afford it, because if that wasn't the case, places like this wouldn't exist and you wouldn't have so many of these cars ending up being repossessed and sold on. In coming content, I'll be looking at other factors that influence household debt. I'm also finding it quite interesting myself to learn about these lesser spoken about facets of life here in Thailand. So thanks for coming along for the ride.